They thought he was dead, torn apart by a grizzly bear, ribs cracked, scalp ripped open, flesh hanging in tatters. His companions buried him alive in the wild and walked away. But they were wrong, because this man refused to die. With no weapons, no food, and a body shattered beyond reason, he dragged himself 200 miles across unforgiving land, through freezing rivers, crawling over jagged rocks, eating insects, roots, and even raw meat, torn from carcasses, all for one reason: revenge. Before he became a legend, Hugh Glass was just a man. Born around 1783, he entered a world where the American frontier was savage, untamed, stretching from the Mississippi to the Rockies, a fur trapper by trade. Glass didn't start as a hardened survivor. His toughness was forged through fire, captured by pirates, forced into their brutal crew, and somehow he escaped. Later, taken by native tribes, he didn't meet a swift end. Instead, he lived among them, learning their wisdom, their skills, their deep respect for the land. These trials, these fires of survival, shaped him into more than just a trapper. He became a tracker, a hunter, a man who could read the wind, predict the storm, and move like a shadow across the wilderness. By the early 1820s, Hugh Glass was a name whispered with respect among the rugged frontiersmen of the West. It happened with terrifying speed. Scouting ahead near the Grand River, Glass moved with the quiet grace of a seasoned tracker. The air was still, the forest dense with pine and shadow. Then, a low, guttural growl shattered the silence. Before he could raise his rifle, a massive grizzly bear, over 600 pounds of muscle and rage, charged from the underbrush. He fired a single shot, the crack echoing through the trees, but it only grazed her. She was on him in an instant. Claws raked his chest, tore through his back, ripped his scalp nearly free. Bones snapped, ribs, shoulder, crumbling like dry branches under her weight. With his hunting knife, he fought back, slashing at her throat, her eyes desperate to survive. The forest rang with her roars, his screams, and the frantic shouts of his companions as they rushed to his aid. They killed the bear with a volley of shots. But by then, Hugh Glass was a broken shell, lying in a pool of his own blood. His ribs were shattered, jutting painfully with each shallow breath. His throat was torn, his face a mask of blood and ruin. His companions gathered around, their faces pale with horror. They were miles from any outpost, surrounded by hostile territory, where Arikara warriors could strike at any moment. Their leader, convinced Glass wouldn't last the night, made a grim decision. Two men, John Fitzgerald, a cynical veteran, and Jim Bridger, a young trapper, barely out of boyhood, were ordered to stay behind, to watch over Glass until he passed, and then give him a proper burial. They built a crude shelter of branches and waited, expecting death to claim him swiftly. But Hugh Glass defied them. Hours turned to days, and his ragged, labored breaths persisted. His eyes, bloodshot and dim, still flickered with life. Fitzgerald grew restless, his fear of an ambush outweighing any sense of duty. Supplies dwindled, and the weight of carrying a dying man became unthinkable. In a cold, calculated move, they stripped Glass of his rifle, his knife, his fire-making kit, everything that might have given him a chance. They dug a shallow grave, rolled him into it, and covered him with earth. Convinced they'd left a corpse, Fitzgerald and Bridger abandoned him, their footsteps fading into the wilderness. But Hugh Glass wasn't dead, not yet, and what he would do next would etch his name into the annals of survival. Alone in the darkness, Glass clawed his way out of the shallow grave. The sky above was vast and indifferent, the cold seeping into his bones. His body was a ruin. Ribs cracked, leg twisted and useless, wounds festering with dirt and blood. He had nothing, no rifle, no blade, no hope. Yet, with fingers raw and trembling, he began to crawl. 200 miles of jagged rocks, icy rivers, and thorn-choked plains stretched before him. A journey no man should have survived. Each movement was a battle against pain. At night, the freezing air threatened to stop his heart, so he sought refuge in the rotting carcass of a bison, its stench a small price for warmth. Hunger gnawed at him relentlessly. He dug for roots with his bare hands, stripped berries from thorny bushes, and gnawed on wild grapes when he found them. Once, watching a pack of wolves bring down a buffalo, he waited until they left, then dragged himself to the carcass and tore into the raw flesh with his teeth. Another time, he seized a rattlesnake from the grass, killed it with a rock, skinned it, and ate it raw, its bitter taste a lifeline. To mend his shattered leg, he fashioned a crude splint from sticks and strips of bark, binding it tightly with vines. His wounds, crawling with infection, demanded a desperate remedy. He placed live maggots into the open flesh, letting them eat away the rot. A gruesome but effective cure passed down from the tribes he'd lived with. Day after day, he fought the land itself. Icy rivers that threatened to sweep him away, blizzards that froze his blood, and wolves that circled in the shadows. Each night, he clawed into the earth for shelter, praying to wake to another dawn. Every inch was a testament to his will, every mile a miracle. Glass had nothing, no rifle, no knife, no fire, but he had knowledge. He drank from icy streams, dug roots from the ground, chewed berries, bark, even raw flesh torn from carcasses. To keep warm, he crawled into hollow logs or the rotting hides of dead bison. His leg he bound with a crude splint, his infected wounds cleaned by maggots, devouring the rot. Every choice was brutal, every act desperate. But survival was not about strength. It was about cunning and the will to endure. Every crawl, every breath, every ounce of agony was driven by one thought: revenge. Fitzgerald, Bridger. They hadn't just left him, they robbed him, stripped him of his rifle, his fire, his very chance at life. As he dragged his broken body across rivers, cliffs, and plains, their names burned in his mind. Fitzgerald, Bridger. Rage became his fuel. Betrayal became his compass. And with that fire inside him, Hugh Glass refused to die. After weeks of crawling through hell itself, Hugh Glass finally reached Fort Kiowa, a ghost of a man, scarred, broken, but alive. Word spread like wildfire. The trapper, who should have been bones on the prairie, had returned from the grave, and he had unfinished business. First, he confronted young Jim Bridger. Trembling, the boy expected death, but Glass saw fear, not malice, and spared him. Fitzgerald, though, was different. The man who had stolen his rifle, his honor. Glass hunted him relentlessly, but when he found him, Fitzgerald was shielded by the U.S. Army. Killing him would mean the gallows. So Glass made the hardest choice of all. He walked away. Hugh Glass never wrote his story, but others did. From campfire whispers to ballads, to Hollywood's The Revenant. His struggle became legend. Not because he fought a bear, not because he crawled 200 miles, but because he proved the human spirit is stronger than death itself. Hugh Glass's journey is more than survival. It's a reminder. Strength can fail, flesh can break, but willpower, unyielding, relentless, can carry us through the impossible. When the world abandons you, when everything is gone, remember Hugh Glass, because survival isn't about the body, it's about the spirit. And now I want to ask you, if you were left broken, betrayed, and alone like Hugh Glass, would you keep fighting, or would you give up? Tell me in the comments below, because your story might inspire someone else to survive their own battles. And if Hugh's journey moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true survival stories.